You wake up every morning carrying the weight of generations on your shoulders. Your parents struggled. Their parents struggled. And somewhere deep in your chest, there's this quiet, relentless voice that whispers you're destined for the same cycle of working hard, hoping for more, but never quite breaking through to the other side. You've made peace with it, haven't you? You've told yourself that modest dreams are realistic dreams, that wanting more is somehow ungrateful. But what if I told you that every sleepless night you've spent worrying about money, every time you've had to say no to opportunities because you couldn't afford them, every moment you felt trapped by circumstances beyond your control, has been preparing you for something your bloodline has never witnessed before? I am Solomon, and in my lifetime, I accumulated wealth that made nations bow and queens travel across continents just to witness what abundance truly looks like. But before the gold, before the palaces, before the influence that reshaped kingdoms, there was a moment of divine selection. A moment when everything I thought I knew about my limitations was shattered forever. You are about to discover that you are not just another person trying to make ends meet. You are the chosen one in your family lineage, the one selected to break every chain of scarcity that has held your ancestors captive for generations. This isn't about becoming slightly more comfortable or paying off a few debts. This is about ascending to places, connecting with people, and experiencing a level of prosperity that will make your own family members look at you with a mixture of awe and discomfort. The wealth that is coming to you will not just change your bank account. It will change your address, your circle, your entire reality. You will walk into rooms where no one from your family tree has ever set foot. You will make decisions with amounts of money that previous generations could never even dream of touching. And yes, this will create tension. People who know your story will struggle to reconcile the person you were with the person you are becoming. But understand this, your elevation is not an accident. It is not luck. It is not even reward for good behavior. It is strategic divine positioning. God needs someone in your bloodline to become a testimony of what happens when heaven decides to rewrite a family's financial DNA. You are that someone. This transformation begins the moment you stop seeing yourself as a victim of inherited circumstances and start recognizing yourself as the chosen instrument of generational breakthrough. Your mindset must shift before your bank account does. Your identity must expand before your influence does. And your heart must align with divine purpose before your hands can properly steward divine resources. If you're ready to stop living beneath the ceiling that trapped everyone before you, if you're ready to become uncomfortable with staying small when God has called you to overflow, then you need to hear every word of what I'm about to reveal. Subscribe to this channel now, because what you're about to learn will not just change your financial future. It will position you as the answer to prayers that generations of your family never knew how to pray. Number 1, breaking the family cycle of scarcity. Look into the mirror of your family history and tell me what you see. Generation after generation of good people who worked until their hands bled, who saved every penny until it hurt, who dreamed small dreams because dreaming big felt like a luxury they couldn't afford. Your grandfather worked 3 jobs and still couldn't buy the house he wanted. Your grandmother counted every coin and still worried about tomorrow. Your parents smiled through financial stress and told you that wanting more was somehow greedy, somehow wrong. You inherited more than their eyes and their laugh. You inherited their limitations, their fears, their unspoken belief that abundance was meant for other families, other bloodlines, other people who somehow deserved what you could never reach. You learned to expect disappointment. You learned to prepare for no. You learned that good people struggle, and struggling people are good people, and prosperity is something that happens to others while you watch from the outside looking in. But I am Solomon, and I have seen the plans of the Almighty unfold across generations. I have witnessed how heaven looks upon a family line that has carried the weight of scarcity for decades, and how divine compassion chooses one person, one soul, one heart to become the breakthrough that shatters every chain that bound those who came before. You are not an accident in your family tree. You are the appointed one, the chosen instrument through whom God will rewrite your family's financial story forever. Every struggle your parents endured, every dream your grandparents buried, every opportunity your ancestors missed was not punishment. It was preparation for your emergence. Think of a river that has flowed the same path for 100 years, carving the same tired channel through the same exhausted ground. Then imagine the force that comes and redirects that water toward fertile land, toward abundance, toward a destination that transforms everything it touches. You are that force in your family's river. You are the divine interruption that changes the course of everything that follows. I remember walking through the marketplace as a young man, watching merchants who had inherited their father's small stalls, selling the same goods their grandfathers had sold, making the same modest profits their great-grandfathers had made. They were good men, honest men, but they lived within the boundaries their bloodline had established. Then I encountered those rare individuals who looked at their inheritance and said, "This is where my family's story has been. But this is not where my family's story ends." The scarcity that has defined your lineage stops with you, not because you are better than those who came before you, but because you have been chosen to carry something they could not carry. Their strength was survival. Your strength will be multiplication. Their gift was endurance. Your gift will be expansion. Their legacy was holding on. Your legacy will be overflow. But understand this clearly. Breaking generational patterns requires more than wanting things to be different. It requires the courage to live differently than everyone who shares your blood. It requires the strength to disappoint people who expect you to struggle like they struggled. It requires the faith to step into abundance when everyone around you has been trained to expect just enough. Your family taught you that wanting more was selfish. God is teaching you that expecting more is faithful. Your environment taught you that good people sacrifice everything for others. Heaven is teaching you that blessed people have enough to bless others abundantly. Your past taught you to apologize for success. Your destiny requires you to steward success without apology. The moment you accept that you are the chosen one in your bloodline, everything shifts. The limitation that felt like humility becomes the prison that keeps you small. The fear that felt like wisdom becomes the doubt that delays your breakthrough. The scarcity that felt like faithfulness becomes the barrier that blocks divine provision. Stop waiting for permission from people who have never lived where you are going. Stop seeking approval from minds that cannot comprehend the magnitude of what God is doing through you. Stop allowing the comfort zone of your family's financial history to become the ceiling of your own financial destiny. You were not born to repeat their story. You were born to complete their story by becoming the fulfillment of every dream they carried but could never manifest. Your abundance will honor their sacrifice by proving that their struggles were not in vain. Number 2, divine purpose and personal transformation. There is a secret you have carried in the deepest chambers of your heart, a whisper that has followed you since childhood. It tells you that you were meant for something different, something greater, something that doesn't match the trajectory of anyone who shares your last name. You have felt it when you walk into certain rooms. You have sensed it when opportunities present themselves. You have known it when you dream dreams that seem too big for your background, too bold for your bank account, too magnificent for someone with your history. Most people silence that whisper. They call it pride, ambition, or unrealistic thinking. They learn to ignore the pull towards something extraordinary because extraordinary feels dangerous when you come from ordinary. But that whisper is not your imagination. It is not your ego. It is the voice of divine purpose calling you toward a transformation so complete that your own family will struggle to recognize the person you become. I speak to you as Solomon, the one who experienced the ultimate transformation from shepherd boy's son to the wealthiest man in human history. My father was a giant killer, but I was chosen to be a kingdom builder. My lineage was marked by warfare, but I was destined for unprecedented peace and prosperity. The God who elevated me beyond every reasonable expectation is the same God who has been preparing you for a breakthrough that will defy every logical limitation. Divine purpose is not democratic. It does not select based on fairness or turn-taking or who deserves it most according to human standards. Divine purpose is strategic. Heaven looks across the landscape of human potential and identifies specific individuals who can carry specific assignments that require specific transformations. You have not been randomly selected for abundance. You have been strategically positioned for it. Imagine a master architect who designs a magnificent palace. Every room has a purpose. Every door leads somewhere intentional. Every window captures light for a reason. The foundation is built to support something extraordinary, even when the foundation itself looks ordinary. You are not the foundation of your family's story. You are the palace that the foundation was designed to support. But transformation is not comfortable. It requires you to outgrow everything that feels familiar. It demands that you develop capacity for blessings that currently feel too large for your hands to hold. It insists that you expand your identity beyond every limitation that your environment has taught you to accept as permanent. The divine design for your life includes connections that will astonish you, opportunities that will stretch you, and resources that will overwhelm you in the most beautiful way possible. You will sit at tables where your presence will surprise even you. You will make decisions that affect numbers your previous mindset could not comprehend. You will navigate relationships with people whose influence extends into territories you never imagined entering. Years ago, I met a young merchant who had inherited a small grain shop from his father. Business was steady, predictable, safe. One morning, he had a dream of vast fields of grain stretching beyond the horizon, warehouses filled with abundance, and ships carrying his goods to nations he had never visited. His family called the dream foolishness. His friends called it greed. But the dream would not leave him alone. Within 5 years, that young man had transformed from a local shopkeeper to an international trader whose grain fed entire cities during times of famine. His wealth allowed him to build schools, support widows, and become a pillar in his community. The people who had called his dream foolish now called his success miraculous. But he understood that his transformation had been orchestrated from the beginning. This is your moment to declare the end of your family's story of scarcity and the beginning of your personal story of abundance. Not because you are ungrateful for what previous generations provided, but because you recognize that their sacrifices were the investment heaven needed to prepare your launch pad. Stop apologizing for the magnitude of what God wants to do through you. Stop shrinking to make others comfortable with their own limitations. Stop allowing inherited fears to govern divinely intended abundance. Your transformation will require faith that looks foolish to practical minds. It will require decisions that seem risky to people who have learned to play it safe. It will require you to act on divine promises when human evidence suggests you should wait for more proof. But when the divine purpose that has been whispering your name finally manifests in your reality, every person who questioned your faith will witness your breakthrough. Every voice that called your dreams too big will watch your dreams become too small for the blessings that flow through your life. You are not being prepared for a slightly better version of what your family has always known. You are being prepared to pioneer a dimension of living that your bloodline has never experienced. This is not improvement. This is transformation. This is not progress. This is metamorphosis. Number 3, renewal of the mindset. The greatest battle you will ever fight will not be waged in boardrooms or marketplaces or investment portfolios. It will be fought in the 3 inches between your ears, where every thought either builds a bridge toward your destiny or constructs a wall that keeps you trapped in familiar mediocrity. Your mind has been programmed by decades of survival thinking, scarcity responses, and limitation beliefs that feel so natural you mistake them for wisdom. Every morning when you wake up, you inherit the thought patterns of people who had to make every dollar stretch, who had to say no to opportunities because there wasn't enough, who had to choose between necessities because abundance felt like a fantasy reserved for other people's children. These thoughts feel responsible, they feel realistic, they feel safe, but they are the invisible prison that keeps you locked in a financial dimension that God never intended to be your permanent address. I am Solomon, and I learned that the mind of a pauper cannot steward the resources of a prince. The thinking that keeps you humble in poverty will keep you ineffective in prosperity. The mindset that helped your family survive will sabotage your ability to thrive. This is not about becoming arrogant or forgetting your roots. This is about expanding your mental capacity to match the magnitude of what heaven wants to entrust to your stewardship. Your current mindset is like a cup that can hold 8 ounces of water. No matter how much abundance heaven wants to pour into your life, you can only receive what your mental container can hold. The overflow that could transform your entire family spills onto the ground because your thinking has not been enlarged to capture it. Every time you catch yourself saying, "I can't afford that," you are programming scarcity. Every time you automatically assume you don't qualify for an opportunity, you are reinforcing limitation. Every time you feel guilty for wanting more than your parents had, you are choosing their ceiling over your own calling. The battlefield of the mind is where scarcity whispers lies that sound like truth. It tells you that wanting wealth is selfish when God is preparing you to be generous beyond anything your family has ever witnessed. It tells you that expecting abundance is presumptuous when heaven has already declared that you are chosen for overflow. It tells you that dreaming big is unrealistic when the divine plan for your life includes manifestations that will astonish even your boldest imagination. I once observed 2 brothers who inherited identical plots of land from their father. The first brother looked at his inheritance and thought, "This is enough to grow enough food to feed my family." The second brother looked at his inheritance and thought, "This is enough land to build something that will feed many families and create employment for an entire community." They both worked hard. They both had good intentions, but their different thinking produced dramatically different results. Within 10 years, the first brother had a modest farm that provided exactly what he expected. The second brother had developed agricultural innovations that transformed the entire region's economy. Same starting point. Same resources, different mindset, different destiny. You cannot think poverty thoughts and create prosperity results. You cannot have a scarcity mindset and attract abundance outcomes. You cannot maintain the mental patterns of survival and successfully navigate the opportunities of multiplication. The renewal of your mindset begins with recognizing that abundance is not your enemy. Prosperity is not your problem. Wealth is not your weakness. The issue is not that money corrupts good people. The issue is that good people often reject money before money has a chance to corrupt them. God does not prosper people he cannot trust, but he does not trust people who apologize for prosperity. He blesses those who understand that abundance is a tool for building his kingdom, not a trophy for personal gratification. He multiplies resources through individuals who see wealth as responsibility, not privilege. Start thinking like someone who was born to lend, not borrow. Start expecting outcomes like someone who was created to lead, not follow. Start making decisions like someone who was designed to multiply, not merely survive. When opportunity presents itself, your first thought should not be, "I probably can't afford this." It should be, "How can I position myself to step into this?" When possibilities emerge, your initial response should not be, "People like me don't do things like that." It should be, "What would I need to develop to become the person who does things like that?" Stop asking, "What if I fail?" Start asking, what if I succeed beyond my wildest dreams? Stop wondering, what will people think if I try? Start wondering, what will people think when I succeed? Stop focusing on, I've never done anything like this before. Start focusing on, this is exactly the kind of thing I was created to do. Your mindset determines your outcomes more than your circumstances, your connections, or even your capital. A millionaire mindset in a minimum wage situation will find ways to create wealth. A poverty mindset in a millionaire situation will find ways to create problems. The mind you inherited from your family got them as far as they could go. The mind you develop for yourself will take you as far as God intended you to go. The difference between those two destinations is the difference between survival and significance, between enough and overflow, between managing what exists and creating what never existed before. Number 4, characteristics of the abundance mindset. You have been taught to make yourself small to make others comfortable. You have learned to apologize for success before you achieve it, to minimize dreams before you pursue them, to shrink your expectations so disappointment hurts less when it comes. You call this humility, but heaven calls it the false modesty that blocks divine blessing. You think this is wisdom, but God sees it as the fear that prevents you from stepping into the fullness of what He has prepared for your life. True abundance mindset is not arrogance disguised as confidence. It is not selfishness masquerading as vision. It is not pride wearing the costume of ambition. Abundance mindset is the quiet certainty that you were created by an abundant God who does nothing small, creates nothing insignificant, and designs nothing without magnificent purpose. I speak as Solomon, who learned that false humility is one of the greatest enemies of divine blessing. When God offers you a kingdom, it is not humble to ask for a village. When heaven presents you with an ocean of opportunity, it is not righteous to be satisfied with a cup of water. When the Creator of the universe designs prosperity for your life, it is not holy to insist on poverty. The abundance mindset understands that you were not created to be a beggar in God's kingdom. You were designed to be a distributor of His resources, a steward of His provision, a living demonstration of what happens when heaven decides to bless someone beyond measure. This is not about ego. This is about assignment. This is not about pride. This is about purpose. People with abundance mindset do not apologize for expecting the best outcome. They prepare for it. They do not feel guilty for wanting more than their parents had. They feel responsible for creating more than their children will need. They do not shrink when opportunities present themselves. They expand to meet the moment that has been waiting for their arrival. When abundance thinkers face rejection, they do not conclude they are not good enough. They conclude they have not yet found the right opportunity. When they encounter obstacles, they do not assume they should quit. They assume they need to develop new strategies. When they experience setbacks, they do not interpret them as evidence that success is not meant for them. They see them as training for the success that is definitely coming. I remember a young woman who approached me for wisdom about a business opportunity that seemed too large for her current capacity. Her family told her to be realistic. Her friends told her to play it safe. Her own mind whispered that people from her background did not do things like this. But something in her spirit recognized that this opportunity had not randomly presented itself to her. It had been specifically designed for her readiness. She chose to think like someone who deserved the opportunity instead of someone who should be grateful just to hear about it. She prepared like someone who expected to succeed instead of someone who hoped not to fail too badly. She invested like someone who understood that the opportunity was not too big for her. She had simply been too small for the opportunity until now. Within 3 years, her business had not only succeeded, but had expanded beyond her original vision. She employed dozens of people from her community, supported multiple charitable causes, and became a resource for other women who had dreams that felt too big for their circumstances. Her abundance mindset had not only transformed her life, but had become a catalyst for transformation in countless other lives. Biblical abundance mindset aligns with scriptural truth about your identity, authority, and purpose. The Bible does not call you poor. It calls you rich in Christ. Scripture does not limit your potential. It declares that all things are possible for those who believe. God's word does not encourage you to settle for less. It promises that you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. Abundance mindset expects to lend, not borrow, because that is what the Bible promises. It plans to be the head, not the tail, because that is what Scripture declares. It prepares to be above only and not beneath, because that is what God has spoken over those who obey His voice. This mindset understands that prosperity is not a sin to avoid but a tool to employ. Money amplifies who you already are. If you are generous in poverty, you will be generous in wealth. If you are faithful with little, you will be faithful with much. If you are a blessing to others when you have nothing, you will be a blessing to many when you have everything. People with abundance mindset do not spend their time explaining why they deserve success. They spend their time preparing for the success they know is coming. They do not waste energy convincing others that their dreams are valid. They invest energy developing the skills that will make their dreams inevitable. Stop thinking like someone who hopes for a miracle. Start thinking like someone who has been chosen to be a miracle in the lives of others. Stop behaving like someone who wishes they could make a difference. Start behaving like someone who was specifically created to make the exact difference this world needs. Your boldness is not pride. It is faith in action. Your expectations are not presumption. They are agreement with divine promises. Your confidence is not arrogance. It is the natural result of understanding who you are and whose you are and what you were put on this earth to accomplish. Number 5. Reactions of the environment to prosperity. The moment you begin to step into the abundance that God has prepared for you, you will discover that your greatest opposition does not come from strangers who know nothing about you. It comes from people who think they know everything about you. It comes from family members who remember when you had nothing, friends who are comfortable with the version of you that needed their help, and associates who built their identity on being ahead of you in some way. Your rise will disturb people who have never been disturbed by your struggle. Your success will threaten people who were never threatened by your failure. Your breakthrough will make people uncomfortable who were perfectly comfortable watching you live beneath your potential. This is not personal. This is predictable. This is the natural response of minds that have been programmed to expect certain people to stay in certain places. I am Solomon, and I watched this pattern repeat itself throughout my reign. The same people who pitied me when I was young suddenly resented me when I was elevated. The same voices that offered sympathy when I had little became critical when I had much. The same individuals who said they wanted the best for me struggled to celebrate when the best actually arrived. When you start walking into rooms you have never been invited to enter, people will whisper that you have forgotten where you came from. When you begin making decisions with resources you have never had access to before, they will suggest that money has changed you. When your standards rise to match your new reality, they will accuse you of thinking you are better than everyone else. But here is what they cannot understand. You have not forgotten where you came from. You have simply refused to stay where you were. Money has not changed you. It has revealed the person you were created to be all along. You do not think you are better than everyone else. You think you are different from who you used to be. The criticism will intensify when they realize that your transformation is not temporary. When your success is not just a lucky break but a sustained pattern of increase. When your prosperity is not just a moment of good fortune but a permanent shift in your reality. When your abundance becomes undeniable and your influence becomes unavoidable. They will study your life looking for evidence that your blessings are not legitimate. They will analyze your choices searching for proof that your success is somehow undeserved. They will watch your relationships hoping to discover that your happiness is not authentic. This scrutiny is not hatred. This is the desperate attempt of people who need your failure to justify their own lack of progress. Your family will struggle with different emotions. Some will be proud but confused. Others will be happy but distant. A few will be supportive but worried. They love you, but they do not understand you anymore. You speak a language of possibility that they have never learned. You make decisions based on faith in outcomes they have never witnessed. You live with an expectation of abundance that they have been trained to see as unrealistic. There was a merchant in my kingdom who rose from selling goods in the street to owning multiple businesses throughout the region. His brothers, who had watched him struggle for years, suddenly began questioning every decision he made. They accused him of being greedy when he expanded. They called him reckless when he invested. They suggested he was forgetting his family when he spent time with other successful business owners. But this merchant understood something that his brothers did not. His success was not just about him. His businesses provided employment for dozens of families. His investments created opportunities for other entrepreneurs. His example proved to his own children that poverty was not their permanent inheritance. His prosperity was not selfish. It was strategic. The reactions of your environment are not your responsibility to manage. Your responsibility is to remain faithful to the assignment that God has given you, even when that assignment makes people uncomfortable. Your job is not to shrink back to make others feel better about their own limitations. Your job is to step forward into everything that heaven has prepared for you. Some people will eventually celebrate what they initially criticized. Time has a way of proving that divine blessing cannot be hidden forever. Others will remain uncomfortable with your success until they experience their own breakthrough. A few will never be able to reconcile themselves to your transformation, and that is their choice to make. Do not waste energy trying to convince people who are determined to misunderstand you. Do not sacrifice destiny trying to maintain relationships with people who only love the limited version of yourself. Do not dim your light to make others comfortable with their own darkness. The same God who elevated you above your family's financial history is the same God who will give you wisdom to navigate their emotional reactions. The same divine power that opened doors of opportunity for you is the same divine power that will open hearts of understanding in those who are ready to see your success as evidence of what God can do in any life that is fully surrendered to His purposes. Your elevation is not your ego. It is your assignment. Your prosperity is not your pride. It is your platform. Your abundance is not your achievement. It is your tool for building something greater than anything your family has ever imagined possible. Number 6, the chosen one's responsibility toward prosperity. With great blessing comes great responsibility, but this is not the burden that people often imagine it to be. This is the privilege of becoming a conduit through which heaven's abundance flows into the earth, touching lives, transforming communities, and creating lasting change that extends far beyond your own personal benefit. You have not been chosen for prosperity so that you can hoard resources like a dragon guarding treasure. You have been selected for abundance so that you can distribute blessing like a river that brings life everywhere it flows. The moment you begin to experience levels of wealth that exceed your own needs, you discover the true purpose of divine prosperity. It is not meant to end with you. It is meant to begin with you. God does not trust people with multiplication who think only about themselves. Heaven invests resources in individuals who understand that abundance is a tool for building the kingdom, not a trophy for personal gratification. I speak as Solomon, who learned that every talent of gold, every precious stone, every piece of silver that came into my treasury was ultimately meant to serve a purpose larger than my own comfort. My wealth built temples, supported widows, funded education, created employment, and established infrastructure that blessed generations of people who never knew my name but benefited from my stewardship. True prosperity always includes generosity as a core characteristic. This is not because God wants to take something away from you, but because He wants to multiply something through you. When you give, you do not become poorer. You become a partner in divine activity that creates abundance in places where scarcity once ruled. But generosity is not just about writing checks or making donations. Biblical generosity is about becoming a person who naturally seeks opportunities to be a blessing. It is about developing eyes that see needs others overlook. It is about cultivating a heart that feels genuine joy when you can solve problems that money can solve for people who lack the money to solve them themselves. Your abundance becomes evidence of your calling when it consistently flows outward toward others. People may question your motives when you are accumulating wealth, but they cannot argue with your heart when you are distributing blessing. Your prosperity becomes prophetic when it demonstrates the character of God, who gives good gifts to His children. I once knew a wealthy woman who had risen from poverty to become one of the most successful traders in her region. Every month, she would quietly pay the debts of families who were struggling. She funded weddings for young women whose parents could not afford celebrations. She provided education for children whose families could not afford schooling. She never announced these acts of generosity, but the entire community knew that her prosperity was not just for her own benefit. Her business continued to expand because her heart remained generous. Her wealth multiplied because her purpose stayed focused on blessing others. Her influence grew because people understood that her success was not a threat to their well-being, but a resource for their advancement. This is the responsibility that comes with being chosen for abundance. You become God's strategy for meeting needs that government programs cannot address and charitable organizations cannot reach. You become heaven's solution for problems that require both spiritual insight and financial resources. You become the answer to prayers that people have been praying for breakthrough in their own lives. But responsibility also means wise stewardship. God prospers people who manage money well, not people who spend it carelessly. Divine abundance flows toward individuals who understand the difference between investment and consumption, between need and want, between blessing others and enabling dependence. You will face pressures to spend foolishly just to prove you have resources to waste. You will encounter opportunities to show off your wealth in ways that glorify your success, rather than the God who made your success possible. You will meet people who try to manipulate your generosity for their own selfish purposes. True stewardship requires wisdom to know when to give, when to invest, when to save, and when to say no. It requires discernment to distinguish between genuine need and manufactured crisis, between people who need help and people who need to help themselves, between opportunities that multiply kingdom impact and requests that simply multiply personal comfort. Your prosperity is not yours to keep, but it is yours to manage. You are not the owner of divine blessing, but you are the steward of it. God has entrusted you with resources that many people will never touch, not because you are more deserving, but because you are more prepared to handle the responsibility that wealth requires. Every business decision becomes a spiritual decision when you understand that your profit creates possibilities for kingdom advancement. Every investment choice becomes a moral choice when you recognize that your returns enable you to be a blessing to others. Every financial plan becomes a ministry plan when you realize that your abundance is God's tool for demonstrating His goodness to a world that desperately needs to see evidence of divine provision. This responsibility is not a weight to carry, but a privilege to embrace. You get to be the person who makes dreams come true for people who have stopped dreaming. You get to be the resource that provides opportunities for individuals who have never been given a real chance. You get to be the blessing that proves to struggling families that God has not forgotten them, and that breakthrough is still possible. Number 7, preparation process for abundance. Before God places unlimited resources in your hands, He must know that unlimited resources will not destroy your character. Before heaven opens financial floodgates in your life, divine wisdom ensures that the flood will not wash away your foundations. Before you are trusted with wealth that can change generations, you must be prepared with integrity that can withstand generations of testing. The preparation process for abundance is not punishment for your past. It is protection for your future. Every delay you have experienced, every obstacle you have encountered, every disappointment you have endured has been developing the internal strength you will need to manage external blessing. God does not withhold prosperity to be cruel. He delays prosperity to be careful. I am Solomon, and I understand that my wisdom was tested before my wealth was released. My character was proven before my kingdom was expanded. My heart was examined before my treasuries were filled. The same divine process that prepared me for unprecedented abundance is the same process that is preparing you for your own breakthrough. You may have wondered why breakthrough has taken so long when you have been faithful for so many years. You may have questioned why doors have remained closed when you have knocked so consistently. You may have felt frustrated that blessing seems delayed when your need feels so urgent. But divine timing is not about your readiness to receive. It is about your preparedness to steward what you receive. The trials you have faced have been training you for triumph you cannot yet imagine. The challenges that have tested your patience have been building the perseverance you will need when abundance requires endurance. The setbacks that have disappointed you have been developing the resilience you will need when prosperity creates pressures you have never experienced before. Financial abundance without character development becomes a curse, not a blessing. Wealth without wisdom becomes a burden, not a benefit. Resources without responsibility become a liability, not an advantage. God loves you too much to give you something that would ultimately harm you, even when that something is exactly what you think you want. I once observed a young man who inherited significant wealth from a relative before he had developed the maturity to handle it wisely. Within 2 years, he had lost everything through poor decisions, bad partnerships, and reckless spending. The money that was meant to bless his life became the source of his greatest regret. He had received the resources without the preparation that would have enabled him to keep them. Contrast this with another individual who spent years building a business slowly, learning through failures, developing relationships carefully, and understanding every aspect of his industry thoroughly. When his breakthrough finally came, he was prepared for it. His success was sustainable because his character had been developed to support it. The preparation process includes learning to value what you have before you are given more. People who cannot appreciate small blessings will not properly steward large blessings. Individuals who are not faithful with little will not be faithful with much. Those who are not generous when they have nothing will not be generous when they have everything. God uses your current circumstances to reveal your heart and develop your character. How you handle pressure when you have little reveals how you will handle pressure when you have much. How you treat people when you need their help indicates how you will treat people when they need your help. How you respond to delays when you are waiting for breakthrough demonstrates how you will respond to responsibility when breakthrough arrives. The process also includes learning to depend on divine wisdom rather than human understanding. Your natural instincts about money management may need to be completely retrained. Your inherited patterns of financial decision-making may need to be replaced with biblical principles of stewardship. Your family's approach to wealth building may need to be upgraded with kingdom strategies for resource multiplication. Each test you pass brings you closer to the abundance you are destined to manage. Each lesson you learn prepares you for opportunities you have never imagined. Each moment you choose faithfulness over shortcuts, integrity over advantage, and character over quick profit, you prove that you can be trusted with blessings that could either destroy you or develop you. The waiting has not been wasted. The preparation has not been pointless. The process has not been punishment. Everything you have experienced has been purposeful development for the prosperity that is specifically designed for your assignment. When your breakthrough finally arrives, it will not overwhelm you because you will have been prepared for its magnitude. When abundance flows into your life, it will not corrupt you because your character will have been developed to steward it wisely. When prosperity becomes your reality, it will not isolate you because you will have learned to see wealth as a tool for blessing others. The same God who has been preparing you through the process of delay is the same God who will sustain you through the reality of abundance. The same divine wisdom that has been protecting you from premature blessing is the same divine wisdom that will guide you in proper stewardship when the blessing arrives. Trust the process, embrace the preparation, welcome the development. Your abundance is not just coming, it is coming to someone who will be prepared to handle it with the wisdom, integrity, and generosity that heaven requires. Number 8, transition to a new time and perspective. There comes a moment in every chosen life when the old season ends and the new season begins. Not gradually like the slow change of weather, but suddenly like the opening of a door that has been locked for generations. You will know this moment has arrived not because your circumstances change first, but because your perspective shifts so dramatically that your old reality no longer fits your new vision. The new dwelling that God is preparing for you is not just a physical address with more square footage and better amenities. It is a completely different dimension of living where your influence, your resources, your connections, and your opportunities exist at levels that your family history could never have predicted. This new dwelling represents a geographical, financial, social, and spiritual elevation that redefines everything you thought you knew about your limitations. I speak as Solomon, who experienced this transition from my father's house to a palace that became the wonder of the ancient world. The new dwelling was not just about luxury or comfort. It represented a platform from which I could impact nations, a resource center from which I could bless multitudes, and a testimony to the world of what God can do when He chooses to elevate someone beyond every reasonable expectation. Your new dwelling will be more than your family has ever imagined because your assignment is larger than your family has ever envisioned. God is not just upgrading your living situation. He is positioning you strategically for influence that extends far beyond your personal benefit. The new address represents a new level of responsibility, authority, and opportunity to impact lives you have never met in ways you have never considered. This transition will feel surreal at first. You will walk through doors that once felt completely out of reach. You will sit in rooms where decisions are made that affect thousands of people. You will have conversations about numbers that once seemed impossible and opportunities that once felt reserved for others. You will look around and wonder how someone with your background ended up in spaces like these. But you must understand that your presence in these new environments is not an accident or a mistake. You were strategically placed there by divine design. Your perspective, shaped by years of struggle, gives you insight that people born into privilege could never possess. Your values, developed through seasons of lack, give you appreciation that people who have never known need could never understand. The new time brings with it connections that will astonish you. You will find yourself in relationship with individuals whose influence extends into territories you never knew existed. These are not random encounters or fortunate coincidences. These are divinely orchestrated alignments designed to accelerate your impact and expand your sphere of influence. I remember the first time foreign dignitaries came to my kingdom, bringing gifts and seeking wisdom. These were not people I had pursued or impressed through my own efforts. They were drawn by the magnitude of what God was doing through my life. The same divine magnetism that attracted them to my kingdom is already working to attract the right connections to your new season. Business opportunities that once felt completely beyond your capacity will present themselves with perfect timing. Investment possibilities that once seemed reserved for others will open to you with divine favor. Partnership proposals that once felt like impossible dreams will become practical realities that you must carefully evaluate and wisely navigate. Your new dwelling will also bring with it a responsibility to maintain excellence in everything you do. The same God who elevates you will expect you to represent Him well in every room you enter and every relationship you build. Your success will be a testimony to His goodness, and your failure would reflect on His reputation. The physical space of your new dwelling will be beautiful, but the spiritual space will be even more significant. You will live with a peace that comes from knowing you are exactly where God intended you to be. You will experience a confidence that comes from understanding that your success is not fragile or temporary, but rooted in divine purpose and sustained by divine power. People who once overlooked you will now seek your advice. Individuals who once dismissed your dreams will now ask for your insight. Organizations that once rejected your proposals will now compete for your partnership. The same voice that once had to fight to be heard will now command attention in rooms where important decisions are made. Your new time requires new thinking, new habits, new relationships, and new standards. You cannot bring old patterns into new seasons and expect to succeed. You cannot maintain previous limitations in present opportunities and hope to maximize what God has prepared for you. The transition is not just about what you gain, but about what you release. You will leave behind relationships that cannot support where you are going. You will abandon mindsets that cannot conceive what you are becoming. You will outgrow environments that cannot contain what you are called to accomplish. This is not loss. This is liberation. You are not losing your past. You are claiming your future. You are not abandoning your roots. You are fulfilling your destiny. You are not forgetting where you came from. You are embracing where God is taking you. Number 9, recognition and legacy. The day will come when every voice that questioned your vision will witness its manifestation. Every eye that looked at you with doubt will see your divine elevation. Every heart that dismissed your dreams as unrealistic will acknowledge that your breakthrough was orchestrated by the hand of the Almighty. This recognition will not come because you need their validation, but because God's faithfulness demands public demonstration. The same people who watched you struggle in silence will watch you succeed out loud. The same individuals who offered pity when you had nothing will offer congratulations when you have everything. The same family members who worried about your unrealistic expectations will celebrate the reality that exceeded even your boldest prayers. I am Solomon, and I lived to see the day when queens traveled from distant lands just to witness what God had done through my life. These were not people seeking my approval or trying to impress me with their attention. These were individuals who had heard reports of divine blessings so extraordinary that they had to see it with their own eyes to believe it was possible. Your legacy will not be built in private. It will be demonstrated in public. The abundance that flows through your life will become undeniable evidence to everyone who witnesses it that you serve a God who keeps His promises, honors His commitments, and elevates those He chooses beyond every limitation that circumstances seem to impose. But recognition is not the goal. Recognition is the natural result of faithfulness to divine assignment. Your success will speak so loudly that your words will become unnecessary. Your prosperity will testify so clearly that your explanations will become irrelevant. Your breakthrough will demonstrate so powerfully that your arguments will become pointless. The legacy you create through your abundance will extend far beyond your own lifetime. Children who are not yet born will benefit from foundations you establish. Communities that do not yet exist will be blessed by institutions you create. Generations who will never know your name will walk through doors of opportunity that your prosperity opened. This is why your elevation was never just about you. This is why your breakthrough was never just for you. This is why your abundance was never just to benefit you. You were chosen to become a generational game changer, a legacy creator, a history maker whose life becomes the turning point in your family's financial story forever. Your prosperity will become a teaching platform from which others learn that limitation is not permanent, that scarcity is not inevitable, and that breakthrough is not reserved for special people, but available to surrendered people. Your abundance will become a living classroom where people discover practical strategies for moving from survival to success, from lack to abundance, from managing what exists to creating what never existed before. People will study your journey not just to understand what you did, but to discover how they can apply similar principles in their own lives. Your story will become their inspiration. Your methods will become their model. Your results will become their motivation to pursue their own divine assignment with renewed faith and determination. The recognition you receive will carry responsibility. When people acknowledge that your success is supernatural, they will also expect your character to be exceptional. When they see that your prosperity is divine, they will also watch to ensure that your values remain biblical. When they witness that your breakthrough is miraculous, they will also observe whether your heart remains humble. But this responsibility is not a burden to fear. It is a privilege to embrace. You get to be the person who proves that God still honors faithfulness, still rewards obedience, still blesses those who trust Him completely. You get to be the living demonstration that divine promises are not just historical artifacts, but present realities available to anyone who believes them enough to act on them. Your legacy will inspire people who share your background to believe that their limitations are not permanent. It will encourage individuals who face your struggles to understand that their breakthrough is possible. It will motivate families trapped in generational cycles to believe that someone in their lineage can become the one who breaks every chain that has held their ancestors captive. The wealth you accumulate will be important, but the lives you transform will be invaluable. The resources you gather will make a difference, but the hope you provide will make history. The abundance you experience will bless your family, but the example you set will bless countless families for generations to come. This is your moment to step fully into the recognition that has been waiting for your arrival. This is your time to embrace the legacy that has been prepared for your stewardship. This is your season to become the chosen one whose life becomes the evidence that God still does impossible things through ordinary people who believe Him for extraordinary results. Your recognition is not your reward. It is your platform. Your legacy is not your achievement. It is your assignment. Your abundance is not your destination. It is your beginning. The greatest chapters of your story are not behind you. They are ahead of you. The most significant impact of your life is not what you have already accomplished. It is what you are just beginning to build. Tonight, as you lay your head on your pillow, something profound shifts in the invisible realm around you. The very air you breathe carries a different frequency now. You are no longer the same person who began listening to these words. The seed of divine selection has been planted so deeply in your consciousness that it will continue growing while you sleep, while you work, while you move through days that may look ordinary but are actually extraordinary preparation seasons. Every morning when you wake up as the chosen one, not because you have convinced yourself of this truth, but because this truth has convinced you of who you really are. The mirror reflects the same face, but behind those eyes lives a completely different expectation of what today can become, what tomorrow will bring, what this year will produce in your life. Your family's financial story was never meant to end with their chapter. It was meant to reach its climax in your chapter. Every struggle they endured, every dream they buried, every door that closed in their faces was building the foundation for the breakthrough that will flow through your hands, your decisions, your surrendered heart. The keys to your new dwelling are not coming to you someday. They are in your hands right now. You simply need the eyes to see them and the faith to turn them. Subscribe to this journey of transformation, because what you have received today is not information to forget but revelation to live by. The chosen one does not graduate from their calling. They grow into it more fully each day, discovering new dimensions of what it means to be heaven's strategy for generational change. Your story of abundance is not ending. It is finally beginning.